June 30th, 2022, the day my husband was diagnosed with stage 2 pancreatic cancer. Yet 4.5 months later, he was declared to be in remission. At the time of this filming, we are coming up to his 2-year anniversary of the original diagnosis. And it's been an amazing journey, but we're still in the fight. I've been encouraged by so many friends to share our story, so this story is filled with lots of fascinating nuggets. There's a medical side to our story, a nutritional side, and a faith side of the story as well. There's so much to this story that we're going to film it in 3 parts, and you're going to want to watch all of them. So stay tuned. Welcome to Your Best Life. I'm your host and healthy living correspondent, Beth Champ. You have cancer, the words that no one ever wants to hear. Your world stops, at least for a moment. But right from the very beginning, I knew we had to fight this. I also knew that we couldn't fight it alone. Our journey has been a miraculous one, and I want others to benefit by sharing what we've learned along the way. So let's start with the backstory. What were the symptoms, and how did we find it? Pancreatic cancer, well, it's very difficult to diagnose. In fact, it's not uncommon for pancreatic cancer to be so far advanced by the time it's found, it's just too late. But we were incredibly blessed. About 6 months prior to Russ's diagnosis, he started to have indigestion. He would get very full very quickly, and he didn't have much of an appetite. I remember he would burp during the meal, which is very unlike him. Then over the next few weeks, the burping, well, it turned to belching. And then the belching turned to vomiting. He had back pain. He was losing weight. I remember when he shared with me that he could not keep any food down. I instantly knew it was serious, and the words pancreatic cancer immediately popped into my head. Personally, I took that as a message from God. Russ didn't want to go to the doctor. He wanted to wait and see if he would get better on his own. But fortunately, he did listen to me, and he met with a gastroenterologist by the end of the week. I believe that gastroenterologist, I believe he knew what it was. But the insurance industry requires you to follow a certain order when it comes to medical tests. He signed Russ up for 6 different tests. Test number 1, blood work. The doctor ran a complete blood panel known as a CBC, and honestly, it's the most minor blood test a doctor can order. Knowing what I know now, I would have insisted on more specific labs, but I didn't know what I didn't know. I suspected cancer, so I expected a very high white blood cell count, but on his labs, it showed up normal. Thank goodness we didn't hang our hats on that one test. Test number 2, an upper GI. It's a type of x-ray that examines your esophagus, your stomach, and the first part of your small intestine. And we learned that Russ has a hiatal hernia. And that's where the stomach bulges through the muscle that separates your abdomen and your diaphragm. So we just assumed, well, that's the problem. Well, there's not much you can do about a hiatal hernia, but we just kept on testing. Test number 3, a colonoscopy, and everything checked out just fine. Test number 4, a CAT scan. Nothing showed up. In fact, the report said pancreas clear. Test number 5, a stomach scan. The purpose of that test was to see if his stomach was emptying out food properly and timely, and everything checked out just fine. Test number 6 was an MRI, and Russ almost skipped that test because he was convinced the problems were caused by his hiatal hernia. But I remember him saying, I've come this far, I might as well finish the journey. And that MRI would end up leading us to a 7th test, which we weren't expecting, and here's why. The MRI report read pancreas clear, but something else showed up. Some sort of a growth appeared outside of the head of the pancreas, and it would have to be checked out. The 7th test was an internal sonogram. There was only one doctor in this entire practice that performs that test. So again, we were blessed. When he lowered the scope down to that area, it turned out that the growth was nothing more than a benign lymph node. So he didn't even biopsy it. He wasn't even going to examine the pancreas because the MRI indicated clear. And as the doctor was removing the scope, he saw something at the corner of his eye, so he went back down to examine it, and it was a mass located at the tail of the pancreas. The doctor gave me the name of a surgical oncologist. I took my husband home, put him to bed, and called the surgeon. Pancreatic cancer can grow from stage 1 to stage 4 in less than a year, so I had to move fast. Another blessing, within 2 weeks, we were in the hospital having surgery to remove that tumor. Join me in part 2, where I will share our struggle with the recommended chemo treatment and how my advocating for Russ ended up saving his life. Thank you so much for watching part 1 of our 3-part series of our cancer journey. I would be so honored if you would like this video, subscribe to the channel, but also feel free to share this video with someone who may be facing a cancer diagnosis. I want people to benefit from what we've learned. And as always, you can reach me at yourbestlife9@gmail.com. Until next time, be happy and be healthy.